Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Sit down and buckle up because we got a show for you today. Black Friday just happened. That is America's true national holiday, our holiday of consumerism, the ones that the corporations and the people alike look forward to all year, because as the price of everything goes up, it's the only day that maybe you can actually get a deal, but probably not. We've seen record spending on this holiday as it's gone up 9.4% year over year. But what does that actually say about the economy? Because I think people are really kind of missing the truth of what this year's Black Friday spending actually tells us about the economy. And it's not good.
Crucial weekend is underway for our nation's economy despite overall economic uncertainty as we head into the holiday season. There's new data. It shows online shopping for Black Friday is exceeding expectations. News Nation's Alicia Nieves is here to break it all down. Good morning, Alicia. I have to say, I didn't feel a Black Friday hype this year.
Yeah, well, the data is actually coming in surprising, showing that people are out there and they're shopping. Yeah, new data coming in this morning shows that consumers have already spent $8.6 billion online for Black Friday. That's a 9.4% increase year over year, and it's bucking some of those bleak forecasts that we got going into this holiday shopping weekend. Most of those forecasts following the trend that we've seen all year, which is showing that Americans are spending less and less by about 4% compared to last year. That's according to financial services firm Deloitte. Almost all reports then following that trend for the holiday season, showing that people will likely overall spend on average $628 this year, down from $641 last year. To stretch those budgets, and maybe part of the reason why we're seeing this Black Friday data come in higher than expected, is that more and more people are turning to buy now and pay later plans or other financing options. This alone is expected to drive $762 million in online spending for Black Friday. And while that's probably going to help people stretch their budgets, put some extra presents under the Christmas tree, there is growing concern that it shows that people are struggling, consumers having to turn to that option, and that it could hurt them later down the line, especially.
Consumer sentiment has been rock bottom this entire year. Consumer spending is the lowest it's been in God knows how long. The only people who've actually been spending money, who've been keeping the economy afloat, have been the top 5%. The other 95%, they don't have the money because the cost of living has gone up so high. We are in an affordability crisis, and that's why you saw so many conservatives losing their seats in this past election. And that's only going to get worse. So of course you're going to have media out there, and at least they're being a little bit truthful, saying that, well, it can't be that bad if people are out there spending. No, they've not been spending money. They've not been spending money, and they've been waiting, maybe I can find a deal on Black Friday. That's when we're going to do our spending. This isn't going to continue through the entire holiday season like the corporations are expecting, because the money is simply not there. That's why you have an increase of up to 60% when it comes to the buy now, pay later, because people don't have that. You give people another avenue to take on debt. And that's exactly what they do, because that's what the American people are trained to do. We're just monkeys who are just trained to carry debt. It's normal to us, and it's gross, and it hurts us in the long run, but we don't know any better because we're not taught anything about finances in school, because our education system is piss poor.
Especially if they default on those loans. And I bring that up because you look at American household debt, that right now is at a record high, just topping $18 trillion in Q3. It climbed $228 billion from Q2. Credit card balances alone jumped $24 billion.
Look at that trend and tell me that the economy is in a healthy place. Look at that trend right there and tell me that the American household has more money to spend than we thought they did. They're going into debt more. And there's still people who are out there who are arguing, well, actually, Black Friday, people are out there, they're spending a lot of money. So the economy is right in a good place, right? We need Trump to stay in there. He's got to stay in there and he's got to buckle down. He's got to increase these tariffs because they're working. And this is the justification that they're going to use to continue to pressure the American people, because they're going to say, well, spending on Black Friday is good. Well, at the same time, they're going to hide the GDP reports that are showing that America's tanking. At the same time, they're not going to tell the average consumer that without the big AI companies, America's stock market has been basically flatlined the entire year. They're not going to tell you the truth. And it's the truth that we need to be looking for, because there's so much propaganda out there. There's so much disinformation out there You have to find it yourself. You cannot just sit around and gobble up all the bullshit that's coming from mainstream media, or your Uncle Bob, who voted for Trump 3 fucking times and says how much he loves kicking out the brown people. At the same time, he's chugging down margaritas every Taco Tuesday at the local place that's ran by a bunch of Hondurans. We have to remember that 100 million Americans sit on the wrong end of the IQ bell curve. We need to keep that in mind. You can't just trust what anyone says, because most people are just sheep being led. You have to be more than that. And that's why we can look at these numbers and say, well, you know, spending was up 9.4%. That's incredibly high. But you look at all the other indicators that have been happening over essentially the past 11 months and say, this doesn't add up. So let's look at the reasons for this. Oh, it's because people have been waiting for the moment that they can actually maintain their lifestyles. They've been holding off on spending for the one day that maybe they can get a deal on those things. I got to spend money on Black Friday. Of course, I get to write that stuff off because the only thing I'm buying on Cyber Monday is a new drone and camera for the channel. But like I said, these numbers aren't representative of a healthy economy, and we need to see that.
And all while the share of 90-day delinquencies, that has climbed now to 7.1%. The cause of this pressure on consumer, no surprise here, persistent inflation that has lingered since the pandemic, adding, those tariffs that brought, prices up a little bit more. You mix that with the cooling labor market, latest data showing unemployment, that's at a 4-year high, the rate 4.4%. And to top it all off, the cherry on top is the government shutdown. It really has become this perfect recipe for uncertainty that's leading to this cautious consumer ahead of the holiday season, and even potentially, and this is important, could affect major economic decisions like a rate cut. The Fed is missing most of its economic data for October and November, even though the government has resumed. You're talking about two job reports that we didn't get, updated CPI or PPI. We haven't gotten that. So it leaves this big question on whether the Fed's going to cut rates, or maybe right the ship if we are heading in uncertain territory with the economy.
When it comes to uncertain territory, we know holiday shopping and spending is based on public perception. What are the polls saying?
I mean, consumer confidence, we just got a report on that. That has dipped pretty significantly at its worst level since we've seen since April. And that's really on the backs of people perceiving the economy with this uncertainty. They're uncertain where it's going to head.
No one's perceiving it wrong. That's enough of this. It's not about perception. It's about reality. And the thing is, mainstream media and what we get on the news, that's perception, because that's the perception that they're pushing. The reality is what most people are sensing, what most people are going through. The reality is the reality, and the reality is that the economy is absolutely shot, that people don't have any money, that with the rate cuts that are coming, it's going to drive up costs. You have Donald Trump coming on Truth Social, whatever it's called, the other day saying that the full force, the full impact of the tariffs are about to hit, baby. We're going to make a lot of money. But the only people who are going to be making a lot of money are the corporations. And of course, that big orange idiot in office. They're the ones who are going to be making money, not us. We're the ones who are going to be getting juiced dry by an extra sales tax that we can't handle. When you have an increase of 50 to 60% on people who are putting Christmas gifts essentially on layaway for the next 12 months at least, that tells you the dire situation that most people are in. Christmas is one thing, right? I understand. Right now, I'm a Christian. I love Christmas. Christmas is my favorite holiday, but it's become a corporate bonanza, a corporate holiday. But of course, that might make it the most American holiday that we have is Christmas, because it's about unfettered spending. That's all it's about. It's about giving people all their wants and wishes, no matter how much debt you're supposed to go into just to make them happy. Because every year it's the same headlines. We know that the economy has been in decline. The true economy that the American people actually go through has been in decline year over year for decades now. But it's the same thing every year. Record spending on Black Friday sales. Consumers are out there hucking all their money. But then we read the fine print, and the fine print is really what matters. Most purchases right now are being made through the buy now, pay later. Projected household debt is at an all-time high, while consumer savings is at the lowest it's been in decades. So we didn't actually buy more. We just used the digital equivalent of telling the cashier that we're going to pay them next time we get a stimulus check, the next time there's a pandemic, the next time we actually have some funds coming in, or whichever one happens first. And this is why the economy is weak, because the economy is built on Klarna. It's built on afterpay and pure delusion. And the media is going to love this because they're going to spin this into telling us the economy's strong. The American economy is roaring, but it's just roaring like a 98 Honda Civic that lost its muffler. This entire economy is just a house of cards, and the wind is coming in, the storm's coming, and people just aren't prepared for that. If we really reduce this down, we look at Black Friday. You can't look at it as a measure of how well the economy is doing. You have to look at it as how high desperation is in our country right now. When everyone's saving their spending for one consumer holiday, that's not a good sign. That means that people are tightening the belt. It means that people are looking for deals. They just don't want to spend frivolously like Americans typically would. Now let's talk about the illusion of discounts here, because that's a big thing. We all know that the sales are fake. We see the coupons online when they're emailed to us or they're stuffed into our mailbox. Everyone looks forward to it. They see a TV, it went from $900 down to $399, but it was never $900, right? It might have been $900 for the week before, but before that it was still $399. But you see that savings, you're like, well, it was $900, now it's $399. I have to take that deal. That's like a 60% deal. I'm an idiot not to take that. No, you are an idiot, one way or another. You're an idiot. This is the retail version of texting your ex and saying that you've changed. You haven't changed. You just moved the furniture around a little bit. The illusionary Black Friday deals are they're meant to trick the consumer into thinking that you're actually getting a discount. But the only deal that's out there that's being made is by the corporations who know that Americans will sprint towards anything that is labeled deal at this point, because it makes them feel like they still have control. It makes them feel like economically we're still safe. Hey, if we can just hold off our spending until Black Friday, everything will be fine. But guess what? Your rent just went up 25%. The cost of your groceries have doubled, and eggs now cost the GDP of a small nation. So when people tell me, they're like, hey, LMA, consumers are spending in record numbers, everything's good. Doesn't that mean that the economy's strong? No, you buffoon. It means people are panic spending like they're on the Titanic and they're ordering a drink before the iceberg hits. I cannot emphasize enough just how terrible it is to hear that so many Americans are falling for the buy now, pay later thing. So many Americans are signing up for 20 to 70% interest rate on a loan that's supposed to last a couple years. But it's part of the whole fake it till you make it thing. Yeah, we got the PlayStation. We're paying it off until the next PlayStation comes out, but at least we got it. Listen, if Black Friday had a mascot, it would be buy now, pay later. It is the most modern financial American coping mechanism. It's the same thing as a credit card for people who actually can't qualify for a credit card. It's like the economy said, hey, you're drowning in debt. Your rent is being paid by Venmo request to your parents. You have a credit score of 14, but would you like to finance this Yankee Candle for the next 36 months? And you're like, yeah, that sounds great because I live in a world of fiscal delusion. Buy now, pay later is simply exploding because Americans don't have money. They have payments. They have payments on their phones, their appliances, their groceries, payments on their clothes, payments on holiday gifts, payments on their payments. That's called interest. And apparently we're just financing sweaters from Costco now. That's where we're at. Keeping warm during the winter has become a luxury in America. And the economists love it. The economists say that it shows a robust economy. It shows that, consumers are out there and they're still spending money. Now, are you kidding? No, there's no robust demand. This is I'm broke and I'm sad, but the algorithm told me that I deserve a Roomba. So I actually really enjoyed this one segment on the news because it was actually showing truth a little bit, talking about how delinquency rates are at the highest they've been in memory. I mean, foreclosure rates on farms and houses and cars are higher than in recent memory. Personal savings rates are at historic lows. And, like I said, the consumer debt is at the highest level in history. They don't usually come out and say that, but maybe that it's becoming so normal and so accepted into kind of a popular reality that they just can't ignore it at this point. So they actually have to talk about it. You're still going to have, of course, Fox News and Newsmax going out there saying, well, this, like I said, we were in a golden age. Everyone's out there. Life is good. I just got a $900 TV for $399. No, you're just a rube. You're a rube for the corporations. Here's what's happening. And this is the reality. and before any of you guys start getting on my case about the Starbucks cup, listen, the hard plastic, there's instant coffee in this. All right, don't be a hater. What's actually happening in America right now is Americans aren't spending money because they feel rich. They're spending more money because the prices have gone higher. Things cost more. So of course, spending is going to hit records year after year because things cost more. So we can say that people actually bought less items this year than they did last year. It's just the cost of those items are much higher. You can blame inflation, you can blame tariffs. I blame both. But it is a fact. It's a reality. And to fool yourself and try to turn away from that reality is just you being delusional. Retail therapy is a huge pet peeve of mine, but it's something that's so normalized in our country that just most people feel better when they go out and spend money, even if it's money that they don't have, because we're all just one sale away from emotional stability. You know, you could be like, hey, I'm depressed, you know, I feel down in the dumps, but hey, at least this week a Vitamix is half off. This is how the personality works for most Americans, right? And be happy if you're not one of these people. And the sad truth is that this works, you know? It works because we're exhausted. And we work too much, we don't make enough. And the escape for most people, the only dopamine that hit they can actually get is if they feel like they're getting a deal on something. Either way, I'm done. I'm done with this whole thing. Listen, Black Friday is what it is. It's a consumeristic ritual that we have once a year, and you really can't hold too much onto it as far as being an economic indicator, as I've discussed. We don't need to hit those points again. Right? Americans have no personality. We have no life anymore, and the only dopamine we can get is if we think that we actually are saving money that we don't have. It's, in fact, we're not saving money. We're just taking on less debt than we thought we were going to take on. And that's the sad thing. So that's why I say we can look at Black Friday, just look at it as kind of the state of financial behavior of Americans right now. When we see that people are buying less items, but they cost more, so spending is higher, while at the same time buy now, pay later has increased by 50 to 60%. It shows us that there's no money there, but the ability to take on debt is still there. The ability for corporations, the ability for Wall Street, for all the big financial lenders out there to make a deal, to make money, that's still there. But for the American people, it's just illusion. It's just illusion, fake sales, and lies. The fact is, what this shows us about the economy is that it's not just weak, but it's cratering. And we can lie about it, or we can look at it and say, here's the truth. But what we can do, because there's still things that we can do, we just need to change our behaviors, not to save the economy, because that's not going to happen, but to save ourselves. You know, don't indulge in the frivolous spending that comes with something like Black Friday unless it's a tax write-off. Don't turn holidays into consumer holidays where it's all about the spending. It's all about buying the gift, getting the brand new thing, saving $20 on something that was $8.99 but is now $8.79, and you don't even have the $8.79 to begin with. You're just going to be paying it off plus 70% interest over the next year. We don't need that. You need to stop. Retail therapy isn't the way to go. Have a hobby. It doesn't have to be expensive. Hobbies can be free. Make friends if that's possible, but focus on community and focus on things that actually enrich us at a level that goes beyond our wallets, because that's all we have control over now is our mental state, how we adjust, how we experience the world in which we live in, a world that is increasingly toxic and degrading for the American, for the human psyche. Avoid going into debt at all costs. I understand a mortgage is one thing, but even nowadays, that's a shit deal. And of course, don't try to spend money at these corporations. I'm going to talk about this in another segment I have about small business in America and why it's really facing hardship right now. But we need to keep our money within our local economies, because that's how you enrich the local economy. That's how small business thrives. And beyond that, that's how we have a better lived experience, by growing our economy, having relationships and bonds between people that go beyond the financial, even if that's how they started. It's not just it's collapsing, because in all reality, it's not just all of a sudden it's going to be Mad Max. All of a sudden it's going to be the apocalypse. Although that's what it was back in 2008 when Black Friday was real. But that's a story for another day. If you're still here at this point, like and subscribe. Tell me what you bought this weekend. I know you guys bought stuff. You know, don't lie to me. But think about becoming a member. Give a donation to the channel. We love you guys as always. Cyber Monday's tomorrow. I still got some stuff to buy because, like I said, tax write-off, baby. But it is what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, have a good one.